Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really deep dive into source material that honestly has the power to completely rewire how you approach your career, your goals, and just your everyday life. We are talking about unlocking limitless courage. You know, we so often think of courage as something you either have or you don't. Kind of like a genetic trait, or maybe just that sudden burst of adrenaline you get when you need to kill a spider in your living room. But what if courage is actually a method? What if it's something you can actively cultivate, multiply, and use to forge yourself into a true, undeniable professional in literally whatever field you choose? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, I have a question for you. Are you trading your greatest privilege for a safe life? Look, it is entirely human to crave comfort, right? Every instinct we have naturally pushes us toward that path of least resistance. It urges us to avoid failure, to dodge setbacks, and to stay neatly tucked inside our comfort zones, which, let's be real, is often right on the couch binge-watching our favorite shows. But we really have to ask, what is the hidden cost of that safety? Because by insulating ourselves from risk, we might actually be stripping ourselves of the exact experiences required to discover our true potential. If you've ever felt like your career or your life has just kind of plateaued because you're playing it a bit too safe, well, you are exactly where you need to be right now. Okay, let's dive into this. The concepts we're exploring today are rooted in Chapter 5 of Ryuho Okawa's incredibly transformative book, Think Big, specifically from a section originally delivered on May 10, 2009. And the text makes this really profound assertion. For the youth, and honestly, for anyone possessing a youthful, growing mindset, the absolute greatest privilege you hold is courage. It's not wealth. It's not your social status. It is simply the capacity to be brave. Awakening to your own destiny, your totally unique mission in this world, and actively fulfilling it, that is the very first step of actualizing this courage. This basically means that courage isn't just some fleeting feeling you wait for. It is the active, relentless pursuit of your life's purpose.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark, absolutely uncompromising contrast we see in how people approach their careers. On one side, we have this desire for a life without setbacks. This is a purely defensive posture. It's the mindset of the employee who never pitches a new idea in a meeting just so they don't risk getting rejected. When you live this way, your primary goal is literally just not to lose. But then, on the other side, we have the willingness to face failure boldly. This is an offensive, highly proactive mindset. The source material argues that hoping for a life totally free of failure is a fundamentally flawed strategy for anyone who actually wants to achieve greatness. Think about it. If you're not failing, you are simply not pushing your boundaries. To truly advance, you must consciously abandon that desire for an easy, setback-free existence and instead eagerly challenge the unknown.
So how do we actively practice this kind of boldness? Well, there's this really powerful Japanese concept called Shinken Shobu. Literally translated, it means a duel fought with real, live swords, rather than wooden practice ones. In a modern context, it refers to those intense, high-stakes, do-or-die situations in our lives and our careers. The text emphasizes a really crucial point here. True professionals are never, ever born in safety. You simply cannot become a master of your craft through casual practice alone. A true professional is only forged in the intense heat of repeated, earnest struggles, these serious battles, where there are very real consequences. It's that exact pressure of the live blade that sharpens your skills to a true professional edge.
So what does this live blade duel actually look like in the modern world? It means you must actively choose to shoulder heavier responsibilities, rather than just running away the second difficulties arise. Look, when a crisis hits your workplace or some seemingly impossible project gets announced, the amateur steps back into the shadows. But the professional, the one actually practicing Shinken Shobu, they step forward. They resolve to fight those difficulties head-on. Taking on heavier responsibilities is the deliberate act of putting yourself right into the forge. It's a completely conscious choice to say, I am going to carry this weight, because carrying it is exactly what will make me stronger.
But let's just pause for a second and be painfully realistic here. We've established that we need to abandon safety, we need to face failure boldly, and actively seek out heavy responsibilities. But man, that sounds incredibly exhausting, doesn't it? Where does one actually find the physical, mental, and emotional energy to endure that kind of constant heavy pressure without just completely burning out? Because if we're just relying on our own ego, our pride, or maybe just our desire for a quick promotion, that well is going to run dry very, very quickly. There absolutely has to be a deeper, much more sustainable source of energy to fuel this kind of relentless courage day in and day out.
To find that energy source, we really need to understand the sheer scope of where this applies. Because this isn't some high-level philosophy reserved only for saints or world leaders or frontline first responders. This profound mission applies absolutely everywhere. Whether you're working in religion, guiding spiritual lives, in politics, shaping the future of a whole nation, or honestly, in absolutely every kind of daily work. I mean, from teaching in a classroom to writing code at a startup, managing a retail store, or even running a busy household. Awakening to a sense of destiny and professionalism is universally applicable. Your forge is exactly where you are, right now.
So there's a specific path to tapping into that limitless energy source, and it moves in 3 distinct steps of transformation. Step 1 is to awaken to your mission, really recognizing that you have a completely unique, irreplaceable role to play in your environment. Step 2, just like we discussed, is to accept those heavy responsibilities without flinching. But step 3, this is where the true alchemy happens. Dedicate your work to the happiness of others. This right here is the ultimate paradigm shift. When you transition from working purely for your own self-preservation, your own salary, or your own status, and you shift your entire focus to how your heavy lifting makes other people's lives fundamentally better, everything changes. Which brings us to the absolute core of the source material today, the Hundredfold Courage Method. The secret to never running out of bravery is to stop trying to generate it just for yourself. When you decide that you are fighting the intense difficulties of your job specifically to secure the happiness of your clients, your team, your family, or your community, you tap into a wellspring that is so much deeper than your individual ego. By dedicating your serious battles to the ideal of serving others, you unlock a massive multiplier effect. You don't just get a little bit braver, you literally draw out 100 times the courage you ever thought you had. It's a real game changer. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought summarizing all of this. When a person awakens to the ideal and mission of dedicating themselves to the happiness of others, they can draw out hundredfold courage from within. That courage? It's already inside you, right now, just waiting for the right motivation to pull it out. So I have to ask you, who are the people whose happiness is actually worth facing your own failures for? Find them, shoulder that heavy responsibility, and let your hundredfold courage forge you into a true professional.